day, YouTube. MotoMaster X5 here. As promised, I am going to do a quick video with the loaner car that I have. My car is in the shop for its 15,000 mile service, as I mentioned in the last video. So I currently am driving a Mazda3i Touring. So this is the 2-liter, an automatic, as you can probably tell. And first thing I noticed is I actually already drove this car. I didn't have time to set up the camera when I first got in it, so I was running to work after dropping the car off. The first thing I noticed was I was reaching for the clutch, which of course that's going to happen because I'm used to driving a manual. And I did it again, actually, just taking off out of there. I put my foot down to start the car. I'm like, oh, there's no clutch. Okay. So that's the first thing I noticed. Second thing I noticed is the Mazda3s Touring, or i-Touring, does not have paddle shifters, which is mildly disappointing. But, I mean, I wouldn't buy this car because of that. I mean, but that's me. I like to be able to shift. And you can still use this. It still has sport shift, so I can shift down and up pretty easily with this. I've also noticed the gearing is pretty tall on the car compared to mine. I think it's just the manual is more aggressive in the gearing. But 6th gear, when I was cruising on the highway, was around, I want to say around $2,000, 2,000 RPMs at 75. Whereas I think my 3S is closer to 2,400 RPMs, I want to say. I'm kind of pulling numbers out of my ass, but that's kind of what I remember it being. Just checking the battery. I know my battery's kind of low right now. Should have really changed that. Fucked it up. Unfortunately, I'm behind a cop, so if he's getting on the on-ramp, I will not be able to gun it and see how the handling compares. It should be pretty close. This model is the 2016 model, whereas my car is a 2015, so I don't think they really changed much in the 1 year time span. So it feels a lot like my car. Obviously the trim is all, it's fabric instead of leather. Oddly enough, the steering wheel actually feels different, even though it's leather, like mine. I think it's still real leather. I think it's just because this one's a lot newer. This car only has 1,663 miles, whereas mine's up to 15,000. So obviously my steering wheel is going to have a little bit more wear. And mine does feel smoother, which would make sense. Overall, my impressions of the transmission are it's a good transmission for automatic. It shifts quickly. Oh my god, this car is so slow compared to mine. Okay, good. So we can hit this on-ramp a little bit. The roads are not perfect, so I'm going to have to take it a little bit easy. So let's see. I'm in second. It's a little salty. Gears are way taller on this, I feel like. See what speed we can get up to. It's not bad. Definitely feels down on torque, but I was still able to hit almost 90 going up that on-ramp, which is really not bad. I think in my car I can just hit a little over 100 going up there if I go flat out, and the roads are a little slick, so it feels a lot slower though than it actually is. It's just a lack of low-end punch and torque, I think. My car I installed a strut power bar, and I feel like it hooks a bit more in the corners, the front end does. And I feel like the front end was getting a little bit squirrelier, even though I have less power with this thing. But I mean, not bad, it's not bad at all. One thing that I really do miss with the GT model that I have, the Grand Touring, is the heads-up display. I always thought it was kind of a gimmick until I don't have it, until now I don't have it, because I usually look at that, so I don't have to look all the way down at the speedometer when I'm driving. And it's just mildly annoying to have to look all the way down there and read a gauge when I'm used to having a nice digital HUD right on basically my vision and my field of view. So that's nice. Another thing I really noticed too is, I was telling you earlier about the cruising speed. Okay, I'm going about 80 right now. Get up to 80. I'm at like 2,300 RPMs. It's cut it back down to 75, like I was saying earlier. 75 puts me right around 2100 RPMs. So I'll check my car when I get it back and see what mine cruises at, but that seems a bit lower. And let's say I leave this thing in 6th. If I put my foot down, there's nothing. Like literally, I'm hardly accelerating right now. So I literally have accelerated about 1 mile an hour since I said I put my foot down. If even that, I think I'm not even accelerating. Whereas in my car, I can literally leave it in 6th gear and just put my foot down and I'll take off. It won't necessarily be like race car fast, but I can pretty easily pass people in 6th gear. I can get up to over 100 really easily. Whereas I've noticed in this one, if I want to go anywhere, if I drop to 5th, still almost nothing. Drop to 4th, then we get a little bit of get up and go. 3rd? Nope, can't do 3rd. So it seems like past 80 miles an hour, this car doesn't have much to give. Up until then, it's not bad. Like, it really doesn't feel too different from my car below 60. But this little 2-liter combined with the taller gearing of the automatic, it just feels kind of slow and anemic in all honesty. It's not bad, but it's very noticeable for my car that it's a lot slower. Way too much traffic to do it right now. But earlier I got the car up to almost 100, but it took it a while to get there. I mean, I'm sure it would have easily gone over 100. Maybe not easily, but it would have done over 100, but it was taking a bit to get there, and I had to slow down because I was running into traffic. Whereas on my car, my Mazda3s with the 2.5 liter can pretty easily hit 115, 120. It starts to pull a lot more slowly past 120, but it doesn't take it too long to get to 120. So this 2-liter combined with the automatic is definitely a bit slower. Now, like I said, it's responsive. I like the automatic. Like, it just downshifted 2 gears when I put my foot down slightly. So I mean, even the engineers at Mazda know if you want to take off in this thing, you need to drop 2 gears. You can't go from 6th to 5th and expect any acceleration. You need to go to 4th. Now, do I think it's necessarily a bad car? No, not at all. I think it drives fine. The 2-liter actually sounds a lot like my car did stock. It doesn't sound that different from the 2.5. Obviously, I have the axle-back exhaust now. My car is quite a bit louder. But my car it sounded pretty similar stock. I think mine was slightly louder, but that's to be expected. It's basically the same engine, but with the larger bore. But I mean, it's not really my cup of tea because it's a little too slow for my taste. That's not to say I would hate it if I had to own a car like this, other than the fact that it's automatic. But like I said, it's responsive. I put my foot down, and look, it's even holding the revs up. It actually doesn't drop down gears right away. If you put your foot down and then you let off, it'll actually keep the revs up for a second in anticipation that you might need to take off again, which I like. And it maybe takes it half a second to maybe a second, probably not even a full second to downshift. So it's a quick transmission. It's honestly one of the best automatics I've driven, I think, aside from not having the pedal shifters. I do wish it had those, but sport shift isn't too bad. But I mean, this is mainly just me comparing the differences, what I noticed immediately between my Mazda3s and this Mazda3i. I do miss the heated seats too, because it's a little cold here this morning. It's in the 30s. And first thing I did when I jumped in this car actually and started recording is I went to go for the heated seat and realized I didn't have them. Not a huge deal breaker, but it is nice having them, and I'm kind of spoiled by them now. And same with that heads-up display, I miss that. And I really do miss the power. Like I said, it's surprising how noticeable an extra 35 horsepower is. Not even 35, I think it's like 29 horsepower that the 3S has. So the 3S only has 29 more horsepower, but it really feels like a big kick in the pants compared to what this car has. And it's probably not even the peak horsepower that's making a difference. I think it's the low end torque, because this thing doesn't feel like it has much low end. It's not bad. Like I said, right now it actually doesn't feel bad at low speeds. It feels pretty comparable to mine. The difference is really noticeable at highway speeds, and I do a lot of highway driving. So, to me, the difference is pretty night and day on the highway. Whereas, like, at these speeds, it's honestly, like, if I just drove in the city all day, I would be fine with this engine. And this transmission even, because an automatic in city driving is honestly better. I mean, I don't have any issues driving a standard in, like, stop-and-go traffic. It does get a little tedious, but it doesn't really bother me that much. But I could see whereas, like, you know, if you had to do a lot of city driving and you weren't going to go on the highway much, this 2-liter and the automatic are not bad. It is really smooth. Like I said, it's a smooth shifting transmission. It's quick to react. It has a very sporty programming into it, I feel like, because it likes to downshift quickly and stay downshifted for a few seconds after you let off. So that way if you hit the gas again, you're not waiting. But overall, I'm definitely very happy with my decision to get the 3S. The extra torque and the power really make a big difference for me. I'm not going full out right now, but it's accelerating pretty good. She definitely has some get up and go. Even though I let off and she shifted into second early, she still pulled pretty strong. But yeah, guys, that's basically it. I mean, not much else to say. It's basically my car with a smaller engine and an automatic. And yeah, hope you enjoyed my little mini review here. Alright guys, so I have my car back in the Mazda3s 2.5 liter, and definitely has quite a bit more power even at low speeds. It's more noticeable now that I'm back driving it again. The 3i 2-liter didn't feel too bad at low speeds. It felt like it had a good amount of power up until about 60, but this, I'm not going to goose on it too much right now because the engine's still cold. But it definitely has a noticeable amount of more low-end power. It's got a lot more torque. The 2i would pull pretty well if I kept the RPMs high. Basically let the automatic do its job and, you know, keep it in a low gear when I put my foot down. This car, I'm in 5th right now at 2200 RPM. And it's pulling really well when I put my foot down slightly. And this is only with me putting my foot down maybe 30%. Oh my god. Did not want to be behind it. So, I mean, this engine's got some real grunt compared to that 2-liter. Like I said, the most noticeable difference is down low. Down at the low end of the RPM range. Up high, it's still a bit quicker, but it's not. Oh, I'm going to miss this light. It's still a bit quicker, but it's not quite as noticeable. Oh shit, is that a cop? Nope, okay. Woo! Woo! Oh yeah. Yeah, this thing's got a lot more power. You can just tell you're driving a car with a bigger engine. And it's funny, like I know I keep saying the same things over and over, but it feels like a lot more than 30 extra horsepower. Like a lot more. Like, see, I'm gonna goose it up here about the same as I did in the other car. Oh god, it's wet there. Woo! And yeah, see, I'm up in the mid-90s full speed. And that was not 100%. I was shifting a little bit early. Had to take it easy on the on-ramp. I don't remember what I was at in the other car. I'll have to double check the video footage when I get back. I want to say I was in the 80s, maybe the 90s. So it was pretty similar. But it just feels... This car feels a lot quicker. And okay, I was saying earlier, I threw out some RPMs and cruising speeds. Right now I'm cruising at 80. In my car, I'm at just shy of 3,000 RPMs, whereas I believe in the 3i, I was around 2,500 RPMs. So the 3S is definitely geared a lot more aggressively. And if you remember in the 3i, I did a pull where I kept it in 6th gear, put my foot down, and you saw that it didn't really accelerate. Once we get out from behind this guy, I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, so we're cruising around here at 80. I'm in 6th gear. I put my foot down. 85, 90, 95, almost at 100. So I'm not going to top it out because we're heading into some traffic. But the point is, you saw how fast that just accelerated. You might even be able to see it on there. That 3i, I did the same thing. I left it in 6th gear, put my foot down, and you saw for like 20 seconds, my speed only increased by 1 mile an hour. Here, within 20 seconds, I was doing almost 100. Granted, like I said, transmission's geared differently, but it feels like I have more power in 6th, leaving it in 6th, than I did in the other one when I downshifted to 4th and gunned it. Now this one, if I got onto 4th, it's definitely a lot faster. It's not as night and day of a difference though. Like I said, I think the majority of the extra power you get out of the 2.5 is low to mid-range. You do get that extra 30 horsepower up top, but that's not the most noticeable part of it. It's the extra torque down low. It's just really nice being able to go, okay, I want to get ahead of somebody. Put my foot down, accelerate, get ahead of them without having to downshift. I mean, I don't mind downshifting, I still do it, obviously. If I want to dick around, I'll be like, woo! Got it. Get more acceleration. But, you know, when you're just cruising, you don't want to constantly be downshifting and screwing around like that. Or maybe you do. Sometimes I do. That guy did not have his headlights on. That is dangerous in a dark car. I don't know if you guys could see it. He's on the other side of the expressway here. But not have his headlights on in like a dark gray or dark blue car. You can hardly see him. That is dangerous shit. So the main engine character-wise, that's the main difference between the 3i and the 3s. Not that that's any groundbreaking revelation. Obviously you have a bigger motor in the 3s. It's gonna have more torque and more power. And I do wonder if my exhaust made much of a difference. It's only an axleback, a cork sport axleback, but allegedly, their customer service claims that you gain an extra 5 or 6 horsepower just from the axleback, which I could believe maybe a little bit, but I don't know. You never really know if you're gaining much, especially without a tune. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, I guess, if it freed up a little bit more horsepower and torque. So maybe this thing's a little bit over the stock 184, it might be closer to 190. But regardless, it is a bigger difference than I thought it would be. Handling wise, my car does feel a little more planted. It might be because it weighs a little bit more in the front with the bigger engine, and maybe the strut tower bar did make a bit more of a difference. Or did make a bit of a difference, so it does seem to handle better. Woo! Oh yeah, this thing feels planted. This thing does feel a lot more planted than that Mazda 3i, and like I said, I think a lot of that's actually the strut tower bar, but I'm sure the added weight from the 2.5 does help a little bit with how planted it feels. Even though the 2.5 is not really much heavier than the 2 liter, you will still have an extra 50 to 100 pounds over the front wheels. But yeah, that's basically it, guys. You know, I just thought I'd give you guys a quick comparison. And of course, this is being the SGT model. It has the nice heated seats. Got my nice butt warmer. Got my heads-up display that I was saying earlier. It's really convenient to be able to look at that. You don't realize how convenient that is until you don't have it. But anyways, guys, that's about it. I hope you didn't find my ranting about the same thing over and over again a little too boring. But yeah, take care, guys. Have a good one.